Hi everybody, it's Monday and today we're thinking in our maths about efficient subtraction. So efficient means that you do it in the quickest possible way. You want to do maths quickly. And so when you're subtracting especially, you can need to look at the sum and decide which is the quickest way to do it. So subtraction can be seen in two different ways. So it can be seen as taking away. So if I have 5, I can take away 3. I've got 2 left. So it can be seen as that removing, that taking away. So when you're doing the column subtraction, that's what you're doing. You're saying I have this amount and I'm going to take this amount away. But it can also be seen as the difference between. So we could say I have 5 and I have, see if I can line up my fingers, I have 3. What is the difference between 5 and 3? What's left here is 2. So we can see it in different ways. And we can do it in different ways. And when we're finding the difference, it's about counting on. So if I wanted to do 5 subtract 3, I'd find the difference between 5 and 3 by counting on or counting back. And it's easier to count on, so we count on. So if I count on from 3, 4, 5, we've counted on 2. So the difference between those numbers is 2, and we've found that by counting on. And so this applies to your maths with your subtractions of those bigger numbers by you looking carefully at those numbers. For example, I have given you a sum here. Now, we could slowly go through each one of those, okay? And we could go, okay, 3 take away 2 is 1. And 6 take away 6 is 0, and 9 take away 9 is 0, and 1 take away 1 is 0. But what we actually have is the answer's 1. And if we take, and I have used a really simple one to prove the point, make it clear to you. But what you notice, if those numbers are really close together, is it more efficient to do a column subtraction or just count on or count back? So if you look at your first question, you will see it's an example of that. Are those numbers really close together? Is it worth doing that calculation, or is it quicker to just count on? And they've actually given you the number line to help you count on. So that's the first part of it. And then they want you to use counting on method to do that subtraction problems, because the numbers are close together. Now, if the numbers aren't close together, is it efficient strategy? No, because you can't count on. If they're wide apart, you're going to forget what you've counted on, and it's a bit more tricky and confusing. So it's about noticing the sum and saying, what shall I do? That sum's actually quite, it's quite tricky. I'm going to use column subtraction, or those numbers are really close together. I'm just going to count on, and that's going to tell me the answer. So that's sort of question 1 and 2. And then question 3 is about another efficient strategy. And we did look at this, but some of you might have forgotten how to do it. So I'll give you an example. 7,000, we've got all those zeros in as placeholders, and we're subtracting 5,891. Okay? Now, straight away, you know that you haven't got any here, you haven't got any ones, you haven't got any tens, you haven't got any hundreds, so you're going to have to go straight to the thousands. And if you're in the thousands, you're going to have to then exchange. So you're going to say, right, okay, I'm going to take 1,000, which is the same as 10 hundreds, so I'm going to have 10 hundreds there, I'll have 1,000 less there, so that's 6,000. Then I'm going to have to cross out, I'm going to take 100 away from that hundreds column, so I have 9 hundreds left, and transfer 100. 100 is the same as 10 tens, so now I've got 10 tens. And then I'm going to exchange from there. I'm going to take 1 10 and exchange it for 10 ones. And all of a sudden, I've had to do all of this before I could even answer my sum. Okay, now that took a long time, and that's not efficient, because what I could have done, I'll show you here, is instead of writing 7,000, I could just take 1 away. So if I had 7,000 and I took 1 away, I would end up with 6,999. Okay, and then that means I could then take away my sum really quickly, and I would remember up here that I have subtracted 1, because we have to remember to put that back on, otherwise the answer will be wrong. But I'm just putting out there to remind me. So 9 subtract 1 is 8, and 9 subtract 9 is 0, and 9 subtract 8 is 1. 1, Okay, so you can see the numbers are different by 1 because we took away 1, so we've got to add that 1 on, and then we'd have 1,109. So you can see we get the same answer, but we don't have to do all this exchanging. So whenever you've got a number that is filled with zeros, if you use that strategy, take one off, do the calculation, put one back on, you won't have to exchange. And as we know, exchanging is the tricky bit. So that's the second efficient calculation. But what it requires you to do, and this is the hard bit, is before you do the sum, to take a moment and say to yourself, look at the numbers, what's the sum, what's it telling me to do? Is it two numbers really close together? Shall I count on? Is it ending in lots of zeros? Shall I just take one off and make my life easier? Or is it one I will have to do a column subtraction and there will be some exchange? So it's about thinking before you do it and not always choosing the same road. It's having, and that's a really hard skill to learn, to be able to go, actually, which is the best way to do this? And it requires you to stop for a moment, look at the sum, think it through, and obviously we would be talking, if we were in class, we'd be talking to each other. So you might talk to whoever's you're with, or you just might have to talk to yourself and say it out loud to yourself. Well, actually, those two numbers are really close together, so I'm going to count on. Interestingly, those numbers all end with 0. I'm going to take one away and make it easier without an exchange, and then I'll put that one back on again. Okay, so have a little go. All those problems on Monday all relate to those and that thinking, and so have a go. And if you don't get it today, that's okay. This is kind of the next step of maths. This is about having that I understand so well how to do something that I can think a little bit harder about it. So don't worry if you're thinking, oh, this is a bit confusing. It's about finding different ways to do a calculation, especially in subtraction, and being efficient, finding the quickest way. So have a go, see how you get on. I'm sure you'll do well. Bye.